let's get to William Barr. While Trump was putting on this huge show, this whole huge circus in Pennsylvania, William Barr was giving a very sober, very direct interview on NBC News. And he was responding to the IG investigation and the IG report, and he was also talking about the next criminal investigation to pick up where the IG report left off. He begins by absolutely hammering the Obama administration for their handling of the Trump campaign and for their spying.
Well, I think probably from a civil liberties standpoint, the greatest danger to our free system is that the incumbent government use the apparatus of the state, principally the law enforcement agencies and the intelligence agencies, both to spy on political opponents, but also to use them in a way that could affect the outcome of the election. As far as I'm aware, this is the first time in history that this has been done to a presidential campaign, the use of these counterintelligence techniques against a presidential campaign. And we have to remember that in today's world, presidential campaigns are frequently in contact with foreign persons. And indeed, in most campaigns, there are signs of illegal foreign money coming in. And we don't automatically assume that the campaigns are nefarious and traitors and acting in league with foreign powers. There has to be some basis before we use these very potent powers in our core First Amendment activity. And here, I felt this was very flimsy.
I love this guy. He reminds me in his affect of Antonin Scalia. He's very intelligent. He looks a little bit like Scalia. He speaks like Scalia. Very measured, but very precise, even down to his use of the word flimsy. And what does he say there? In his very moderate way, he says, the Obama administration spied. They acted inappropriately. This is a major threat to our system of government. They violated civil liberties. They acted in an unprecedented way in our history, and we are going to get to the bottom of it. And he doesn't even just leave it there. He also went after the press.
Before I go into a couple of other questions, let me just sort of button this up. I think a lot of people will hear what you're saying here and think, well, that's just Bill Barr defending Trump. Your concern about the FBI's investigation is what? Civil libertarian?
I think our nation was turned on its head for 3 years. I think based on a completely bogus narrative that was largely fanned and hyped by an irresponsible press. And I think that there were gross abuses of FISA and inexplicable behavior that is intolerable in the FBI. And the Attorney General's primary responsibility is to protect against the abuse of the law enforcement and intelligence apparatus and make sure that it doesn't play an improper role in our political life. That's my responsibility, and I'm going to carry it out.
That's right. He's telling the press to their face on NBC News that an irresponsible press spread this ridiculous hoax. This guy has Kulyuni of steel. Then he comes out and he says there were gross, inexplicable, intolerable abuses of the FISA process. Not errors, not whoopsie-daisy, a little mistake, okay, no big deal, no harm, no foul. He's saying abuses. Now you might ask, doesn't that contradict the IG report? I thought NBC News told me, the very dishonest mainstream media told me, that the IG report found that there was no improper motivation, there were no nefarious plots, it was just all a big misunderstanding. Doesn't Barr contradict the IG report? Sort of, but not really. And he explains how, for both the press and through the press, for the American people.
So the Inspector General says he found no evidence to indicate that the FBI's decision to start this investigation was based on political bias. Do you agree?
Well, I think you have to understand what the IG's methodology is, and I think it's the appropriate methodology for an Inspector General. He starts with limited information. He can only talk to people who are essentially there as employees, and he's limited to the information generally in the FBI. But his approach is to say, if I get an explanation from the people I'm investigating that is not unreasonable on its face, then I will accept it as long as there's not contradictory testimonial or documentary evidence. In other words, it's a very deferential standard. And all he said is, people gave me an explanation and I didn't find anything to contradict it, so I don't have a basis for saying that there was improper motive. But he hasn't decided the issue of improper motive.
This is the key point here, because I think it's confusing even for conservatives. They say, hold on a second. We have these two investigations now going on into the origin of the original Russia investigation. You have the IG investigation, and then you have this guy, John Durham, the prosecutor that William Barr appointed to look into it. How come if the IG says basically it's all okay, how come there's still this John Durham investigation? And what Barr explains is the IG investigation has a very deferential standard. The task of the IG is not to get to the bottom of the motivations and grill people. The task of the IG is to get a story. If the story is not really contradicted, then there's no reason to disbelieve it. It's a very deferential standard, and you hear the implicit threat in his voice. If you enjoyed that video, and frankly, even if you didn't, be sure to hit the like button so that the rest of the YouTubers know that our content is the best content out there.